Hi everyone, my name is Karen. This is my channel RatherBeReading, and today I'm bringing to you my marked as to read video for August. So it has been quite some time since I filmed my marked as to read video for July, which, if you don't know, is a series of videos where I go through and tell you guys all the books that I have marked as to read on Goodreads. And as I said, it has been quite a while since I posted that video. Normally when I film it, I talk about all the books like since my last video, but I have decided to cut this off as books that I marked off as to read at the end until the end of August, despite it being halfway through September. And then I will film another one of these at the end of September with the books that I marked as to read in September, because even cutting it off there, I have 28 books to talk about in this video, because as we all know by now, I have a serious addiction apparently to marking books as to read. Doing this series of videos has really brought to light how many books I mark as to read, because I really didn't realize before that it was as many as this, but apparently it is. So let's jump straight in. I'm going to talk about these books as quickly as I can because I don't want this video to be epically long, although it probably will still end up being, but let's see how we go. The first book I marked as to read was The Darkest Corners by Kara Thomas. This is a book that I saw on, I've actually seen around a bit, but I saw it mainly on Cassidy Monche's channel. And looking at the synopsis, it's kind of one of those vague-ish synopses, which I appreciate, but I gather that this follows two girls who testified in a trial or something about a murder of a friend of theirs or something, and the person is sitting on death row because of their testimony, but there's secrets and lies like involved, and one of the girls has to go back to the town where this all happened. I don't really know. That's what I gather from the synopsis, but that is enough to intrigue me, and it sounds really interesting, and I look forward to picking it up. The next book I marked as to read, I didn't see on any one person's channel, but on a bunch of people's channel, and that is Nevernight by Jay Kristoff. People have just been raving about this book, and to be honest with you, I don't even really know what it's about, but the rave reviews of it were enough for me to mark it as to read, and Jay Kristoff is actually Australian, I believe, and I'm always happy to support Australian authors. The next book I marked as to read is Small Great Things by Jodi Picoult. This is the next book that's coming out from Jodi Picoult. I have read all of Jodi Picoult's books to date, and this one once again has a really interesting and compelling sounding premise. This follows an African-American neonatal nurse who is helping deliver a baby when the parents of that baby turn out to be white supremacists, and they ask for her to be reassigned because they do not want her touching their baby. So she's reassigned, but then one day she is in the neonatal ward by herself. There's no one else there, and the baby of these white supremacists goes into cardiac arrest, and she hesitates for a moment, but then starts to perform CPR, and as a result, she is charged with a crime. So really super compelling plot. It sounds amazing. All of Jodi Picoult's books deal with really interesting plots and themes, and this one, as I said, is no exception, and I really look forward to reading this. The next book I want to talk about is actually Book of 1,000 Days by Shannon Hale. This is something that I actually marked as to read following a video on CC from Problem of a Book Nerd's channel, which she did an author spotlight on Shannon Hale. And this is the book that I marked as to read following on from that video. This one, I believe, follows two girls. I think one is kind of like more of a higher up figure, and one is her maid, and they are locked up in a tower because one of them the lady refuses to marry a suitor, and so they're locked up in a tower, and then one day two men arrive at the tower or something. I'm not really sure, but CC has raved quite a lot about Shannon Hale, and I've never read anything by her, and I have always wanted to try something, so this is the book that I have decided that I'll probably start with. The next book I marked as to read was Wicked Girls by Alex Marwood. This is something that I saw on a book haul on Alita Joy's channel. This sounds really intriguing. This follows two 11-year-old girls who meet one day on summer holidays, I believe, and by the end of that day, they have been charged with murder. And then I believe it's like 25 years later or something like that, and one of them is now a journalist, and there's a spate of girls going missing or something, and she goes to interview this person who turns out to be this little girl who she met when she was 11. I don't know too much about it apart from that, but that is enough to intrigue me, and I definitely want to pick this up at some point. The next two books I marked as to read are both books that were recommended to me on Goodreads from Mel over at That Girl Bookworm. The first of those is The Killings at Badger's Drift by Caroline Graham. This is the first in a series of books, I believe, that follows one detective in kind of a small village, I think in England, and he is solving crimes. Obviously, that's all I really know about it, but Mel thought it would be something that I would enjoy, and it does sound like something that would be up my alley, so I definitely look forward to checking it out in the future. And the second book that Mel recommended to me was Akane by Lynette Noni. I believe she said that this deals with a school, like is set in a school, and Mel knows that I really enjoy books that are set in schools. And again, I believe this is by an Australian author. I don't know too much about it, except that I believe it has some kind of like fantastical elements, like some magical elements. So it does sound really intriguing, and again, I do look forward to checking it out. The next book I marked as to read is another one that I've been seeing around on Booktube a lot recently, and that is Every Heart a Doorway by Seanan McGuire. Again, I'm not 100% clear on the plot, but I do believe this deals with children at a school who have all at some point gone through a door like to another world. That's all I really know about it, but people have been absolutely raving about this, and it's definitely something that I want to check out in future. The next 8 books I'm going to talk about are all books that I saw on a BuzzFeed article about underrated horror books. So as I said, there are 8 of them, and I'll go through these as quickly as possible because each of them intrigued me in their kind of own different way. The first of those is Full Tilt by Neil Shusterman. This is a story that follows 2 brothers who get trapped in some kind of deadly carnival, and they have to like go on these like 7 deadly rides or something to escape. That sounds extremely fantastic. It sounds like a Goosebump books, but like even better. So I'm really intrigued by this, and I look forward to reading it in the future. The next book I marked as to read from that list was The Bell Witch, An American Haunting by Brent Monahan. And the little phrase that it had on the article about this one is, it's about a witch's vicious spirit that brutally torments a family, and it apparently actually happened. That was enough for me. The next book from that list was The Supernatural Enhancements by Edgar Cantero. For this one, I'm just going to read you the first couple of sentences off the Goodreads synopsis, and that is, what begins as a clever gothic ghost story soon evolves into a wickedly twisted treasure hunt in The Supernatural Enhancements, Edgar Cantero's wholly original modern-day adventure. Again, that just sounds really intriguing and definitely something I look forward to reading in future. The next book from that list is The House That Jack Built by Graham Masterton. This is a story that just follows, I believe, a couple who buy a house where every person who's ever bought it has met with a tragic end. That's all I really know, but again, it sounds really great. The next one is The One That Got Away by Simon Wood, and the little blurb on the BuzzFeed article for this one was, if you love tales of road trips gone wrong, this takes the cake. Oh, and if your BFF goes missing on vacation, don't go looking for her. So again, that was enough to intrigue me. It sounds kind of like a real cheesy horror movie about a road trip gone wrong, and that sounds fantastic to me. The next one is A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay, and the little blurb about this one was, it'll shock you by showing you the dangers of mixing exorcism with reality TV. I love horror movies set around exorcisms, but I've never really read any books dealing with that, so I'm definitely intrigued to check this one out. The next one from that list was The Town by Bentley Little. This follows a man who returns to his hometown. Although things seem to have changed in this town, and now no one goes out after dark, and no one told him that he shouldn't move into this like really creepy house on the edge of town where something really unseemly is going on. And the final book from that BuzzFeed article is Suffer the Children by John Saul. This one I'm not too clear on the plot, I believe. It follows a town where something awful happened to a little girl like 100 years ago, and now 100 years later lots of children are going missing. Basically, the name John Saul was enough for me to mark this one as to read because I read quite a few John Saul books in my teen years. His book, The Second Child, is one of my faves, and I'm definitely happy to pick up something by him that was recommended on an underrated horror books list. The next book I marked as to read was The Farm by Tom Rob Smith. This is actually a book that my brother's girlfriend purchased, and I read the synopsis of it when she showed it to me, and it sounded really interesting. It follows a man whose parents have retired and moved to this little, farm or something like that, or farm presumably from the title, and one day he gets a call from his father saying that his mother is extremely ill, she's having hallucinations, he's had to put her in a mental asylum, all this stuff, and then a couple of days later gets another call from his father saying that his mother has escaped from the mental asylum and they don't know where she is. He then receives another phone call from his mother saying, I'm sure you've heard from your father, do not believe anything he says, he is lying. I don't know kind of where it goes from there, but that sounds extremely intriguing and definitely something that I would enjoy. The next book I marked as to read was volume 1 of the I Hate Fairyland graphic novel by Scotty Young. If you saw my marked as to read video for July, I marked as to read in that book The Girl Who Fell from Fairyland and something that's a really long title that I cannot recall right now. In that I gave a plot synopsis that sounded really great, and that was actually the synopsis for this graphic novel. I got confused, so there you go. The graphic novel is about a little girl a woman who goes into fairyland. I think she's a little girl when she goes in, but she gets trapped in the little girl's body. So she's like a 30-year-old trapped in like a young girl's body, and she's trapped in fairyland and she can't get out, and she's just like really bitter, and it sounds really amazing. And so this is a graphic novel that I would like to check out. The next book I marked as to read is Hex by Thomas Oldhavolt. I'm not sure that's how you pronounce it. I saw this book on Cherie Lampley's channel on her Top 5 Wednesday video on books on her wish list, and she gave just kind of like 3 key phrases about the book, and that was enough for me to mark it as to read. The 3 phrases that she gave were a witch, a haunted town, and no one can leave. That's enough for me. Next, I have 2 books that I marked as to read, which are both middle grade, as I've been kind of wanting to check out a bit more middle grade fiction. The first of those is Boundless by Kenneth Opel, which I've heard a lot about and I was always intrigued. I believe it follows a little boy who witnesses a murder on this like train, on this really long train journey, and then he's kind of like trapped on this train like with a murderer. It sounds really interesting and definitely something that I think I will enjoy. I haven't read a lot of middle grade, but I feel like this is something where I could dip my toe into the water and see what I think. And the other middle grade book that I marked as to read was Seraphina and the Black Coke by Robert Beatty. This is, I believe, one that follows a girl who lives in the basement of like a school. No one knows that she lives there. She's like the daughter of like the caretaker for the school, and no one's like allowed to know that she's there, but there is someone, or children are going missing or dying or something like that, and she believes that she knows what's happening, something like that. It sounds intriguing, and again, something that maybe I would enjoy. The next book I marked as to read is The Upside of Unrequited by Becky Albertalli. If you saw my August wrap-up, you know that I read Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda, and I absolutely adored it. I have no idea what this new book of hers is about, but I'm definitely going to be reading it because I really, really loved that book, and I thought her writing was great, and I definitely want to check out anything else by her. The next book I marked as to read is My Soul to Take by Rachel Vincent. This is the first book in the Soul Screamers series, which is a series that I saw Michaela Eve talking about on her channel, and she was absolutely raving about this series, and I believe it follows a girl who can sense when people around her are about to die, and that causes her to scream uncontrollably or something. I don't know, but Michaela was absolutely raving about it, and it definitely was enough to make me very intrigued and to want to pick it up. The next book I want to talk about is Never Missing, Never Found by Amanda Panich. This is a book that I saw on Holly by Golly's channel, and this is a story that follows a girl who went missing when she was little, but she returned, and now she's older and she's taken a job at an amusement park, I think, and then girls start to go missing, and it just kind of follows that. I hear kind of a lot of books with this kind of plot, but they all intrigue me. I love like mystery, thriller, that type of thing, and I want to read it. The next book I marked as to read is Once and For All by Sarah Dessen. I have no idea what this is about, but I have read every book by Sarah Dessen. She's one of my favorite authors, and as soon as I heard that she had a new book being released, I immediately marked it as to read. The next book I want to talk about is Armadale by Wilkie Collins. This is another book recommended to me by Mel from That Girl Bookworm. I'm not sure if Mel's read this or just that she heard that the heroine in this was really great. I have read some books by Wilkie Collins and I've really enjoyed them, particularly The Woman in White. I don't know too much about this. I had a quick skim of the synopsis and it seems like it's about 2 cousins that have the same name and one's father murdered the other. I don't know kind of how that evolves into the plot, but as I said, I like Wilkie Collins and I'm happy to read anything by him, especially if it features an awesome heroine. The next book I want to talk about is Girl Missing by Sophie Mackenzie. I actually saw Kate from Girl Reading talking about this book, saying that it was one of her absolute faves and that it actually inspired the name of her channel. And I'd never heard anything about this book, and I looked up the synopsis and it sounds quite interesting. It's about a girl who always knew that she was adopted, but one day she, for some reason, starts to think that she was actually kidnapped as a baby, and so it kind of follows that storyline. Sounds really interesting. Kate obviously loved it, so I definitely want to check it out. And the final book that I'm going to be talking about in this video that I marked as to read is One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is a book that I saw on Gabby Reed's July wrap-up, and it sounds really, really interesting. It deals with some heavier topics. It follows a girl who is kind of high school sweethearts with a boy, and they are completely and totally in love, and they get married. And one day, I'm not sure how, but the boy dies. After they've been married for a couple of years, he dies. She's obviously extremely devastated by this. It's a little while later, and I believe she meets another boy and she falls in love with him and starts to have a romance with him, when it is then discovered that through whatever circumstances her first husband did not die, and that he is alive, and then he comes back and she's dealing with this whole situation. It sounds extremely heavy and very like angsty, which I can totally appreciate. And yeah, Gabby had really good things to say about it, and it definitely sounds really interesting, and definitely something that I would like to check out in future. So those are all the books that I'm going to be talking about in this video that I marked as to read. As I said, there were way too many of them. I would love to chat with you guys in the comments if any of these books sounded really interesting to you and I've made you mark them as to read, or any great books that you have marked as to read that you think I might like to mark as to read, because I love marking books as to read, as we have discovered through this series of videos. So yeah, I'd love to chat with you guys in the comments. Please like this video if you liked it. Please subscribe if you want to see more. But that's all I've got for this video today. Bye guys.